And well, firstly, I'd like to welcome Neil today. Neil is the co-founder of Lovehoney, and we're delighted that he's joined us to form part of our Juice Connects program. So Neil, obviously, just tell me, I'm just really interested to find out from Lovehoney's perspective, actually, how the last year's been for you.
Well, it's been absolutely amazing year. I mean, we're just coming to the end of our financial year now, and we've had our best year ever by a huge margin. Smashed all our sort of targets that we thought were pretty ambitious. We always like to set ourselves ambitious targets, but we just found really extraordinary growth this year, completely unexpected, and obviously due to the awful COVID situation, and it just seems to have accelerated. Particularly for the e-commerce business, for the whole sector, it really has accelerated the sector. I'd say at least 3 years, maybe 5 years. We've seen that kind of growth that we would expect over that period, in the last year. So, I mean, it's been incredible for us. I mean, it's tragic that we kind of benefit from something so awful, if you see what I mean. But it has given us a lot of challenges in the business about. Really, just number one, just how do you cope with the demand when we're suddenly like Black Friday every day, and we have to try and keep our delivery promises and keep stuff in stock and all our worldwide logistics ticking over and our manufacturing, and then how we deal with actually running a warehouse where you've got 2 or 3 times the number of orders that you were expecting, but you have to keep the staff socially distanced, and so you've got less efficient processes in the warehouse. So all of those things, were completely unexpected, obviously, and massively challenging to kind of work out on the fly. So, the staff at Lovehoney have dealt with it brilliantly, have been fantastically adaptable and come up with really innovative solutions about how, to deal with this new world. So it's been an incredibly challenging year, but obviously for a lot of e-commerce businesses, fantastically rewarding as well. So
yeah. I mean, if you could sort of go back a year, like we've got this day today, haven't we? Remembrance Day, when it was the day basically that we all went into lockdown. Did you have any foresight of how the year may look in terms of planning or which way it was going to go? What were your thoughts a year ago?
Well, a year ago we were having kind of like emergency board meetings, trying to work out whether we'd actually be allowed to trade or we'd have to shut down, because it wasn't very clear, and then how we were going to deal with keeping social distancing. If we are allowed to open, then how do we deal with the particularly the workforce in the warehouse, because those jobs cannot be done virtually. People have to be there. So it was kind of, okay, so in order to process the orders, then we're going to have to start doing 24-hour shifts to keep people distanced. So it was all those kind of logistical challenges, and then working out about how are we going to get people tested, because there wasn't a lot of testing around then. Doing everything we can to make our staff feel comfortable with coming in and working with HR, okay, what are we allowed to do? What aren't we allowed to do? Not forcing anyone to work if they didn't feel, all those sort of things. So it was just like, oh my God, what are we going to do? But you just kind of sit down and try and work through it as best you can, so.
Yeah. And when was the point where you thought, oh my gosh, this is literally, we're experiencing a real upturn? I mean, was it pretty much straight away, or
it was pretty much straight away. I mean, it was just bizarre, because it wasn't something we really expected, that people are just going to flood online and start buying sex toys. It doesn't seem like the most obvious thing that you would expect if there's a global pandemic, but hey ho. That's what happened. And in April in particular, we were absolutely slammed to the point where, we pride ourselves on being able to, if you place an order the same, today, it will be dispatched today up to about 7 p.m. And that went, we had to change our delivery promises because we had such a backlog in the warehouse. It was taking us 6-7 days to clear the backlog. And then, and then Royal Mail, obviously they've got problems, in their operations. They can't send as many trucks to us to pick the stuff up. I mean, it was just, and then there's a massive knock on for our customer services people, because even though there's a global pandemic, for some reason people expect their sex toys next day. So there's just a ton of stuff. I mean, the actual logistics for the people who work in our offices, pretty much all those jobs can be done remotely. So getting people to work from home, there was a lot of work with our IT department to make sure that people had secure connections into our own private network where all our kind of admin stuff is that's used to run the business, or place purchase orders, all that sort of stuff. So IT had to get out to people's houses and made sure that they all had secure connections, and customer service all had to set up to be able to work together and answer calls, over the internet, which they did anyway, but individually from home. So it was just a lot of stuff to get your head around. And we got some brilliant managers in the business who sort of rose to the challenge.
I think it's a challenge that everybody faced, wasn't it? And I think the word you keep sort of talking about is logistics, isn't it? It was a logistical, oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? How are we going to map this? How this is going to work? And I suppose with yourselves, especially the increase in demand, it was almost like an additional, pressure. But my gosh, I suppose an additional opportunity.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it really was just, the main thing was keeping up with demand and keeping our supply chain, our global supply chain moving. I mean, we were lucky in that we had a lot of stock in because of our peak periods of Christmas and Valentine's. So it was just after that. So we still had quite a lot of stock. But, we ran out of some key lines, and then, our stuff is mostly made in the Far East. So, there's long lead times, and, it comes on the water. All the prices of all the shipping went up massively. I mean,
wow.
It was a lot for people to deal with. So,
and how were you sort of noticing different sort of, customers, different buying trends? Were you having to market the business differently, or was it really just?
We had a sort of what we call a sort of COVID cohort. So after the first couple of months, when we kind of managed to sort of settle into a kind of, okay, right, we know how to function in this new world, what actually happened, so out of all these new customers we got, hundreds of thousands of new customers, we did some data analysis on them, looked at, how are they different from perhaps our previous customers. So we saw a lot of younger customers come to us. So I'm not sure why.
Yeah,
there's lots of insights around that. We sell a lot more sort of toys that are designed to be used together, which kind of makes sense. Well, I mean, it's great.